So, hi folks, my name is Abid. I run this options trading platform called Sensible. Some of you might have seen me already on several podcasts of Zerodha. We have Dr. Preeti with us, who's like a leading expert in clinical psychology and matters that concern mental health of traders with us.
So, hey traders, we are here from Lissun, a mental and emotional wellness company, that offers mental health support and solutions pan India. And we have a team of counselors and clinical psychologists, who are working with traders one-on-one or, working in groups for that matter to look after their mental health through our website, www.listen app, and through our app. So Listen has partnered with Zerodha as a part of Mental Health Day and taking care of the well-being of all you traders out there, so that we can trade in a more healthy way, and we can feel even better about our outcomes and the whole journey that we endure.
I guess the only reason why I am doing this on the opposite side is because they needed a certified gambling addict for this. So I think that would be the most appropriate introduction I can give for myself. So anyway, let's get started with some of the questions which we have collated from our uh, users. Dr. Preeti, I'm going to ask you, a question which I myself wonder several times, and this is also a question which many of our clients asked us, right? So here's the deal, right? So let's say a lot of our clients are like, in mid 30s. Some of them are also very young, right? And as life goes, somewhere here, especially in our case, for example, young people are attracted to trading, of course, because they think it's a very glamorous field. In our case, somewhere around mid 30s, people start developing, new hobbies and interests, right? Some people buy a Harley Davidson and go on the trip of the country. Some people think they're automobile enthusiasts and start buying BMWs. Some people start photography and whatnot, right? Now the question which I'm trying to lead into is, see, I think, right, and a lot of our clients think that we are extremely passionate about markets, right? But what bothers me is this: how do I know it's that, and it's not just, a plain how do I put it mildly, gambling problem? So how do I diagnose this?
Well, I guess you have quite nailed it there, because a lot of times we endure that kind of confusion, all right, between passion and addiction, if I would say that part of it. So see, passion is mostly driven by enthusiasm, and it doesn't become so compulsive that it breeds anxiety. It's like that impulse is not there when you're talking about passion, right? You can hold yourself, you can wait till you want to do certain things, you can buy time, you can calibrate, right? But in addiction, what happens is you are preoccupied about it. Okay, when do you get to do it? When you're not doing it, then also you're thinking about it. So there is literally no space for your own self or anything else when you're in that addiction mode, or in the gambling addiction mode for that matter. So I guess that's something that for passion, it's more pleasure and enthusiasm driven, whereas here it's more impulse driven, you know. So that's the major demarcation that I would like to add here.
Could you just give us a couple of examples of that, just so that it's very clear, like the compulsive behavior that you brought into the topic, right? Could you just
So
clarify?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, I've seen like there are clients who would like, who will get up in the morning and the first thing they want to do is this, and they would keep checking how it's doing, and they would keep, despite of looking at the fact that whether, then there's the impulsivity component, where despite whether their resources allow or they don't allow, they will keep investing in it. There's a compulsion to keep doing that part of it, not able to stop yourself when you start off that part of it. And if you are not doing, then you plan that, oh, when do you get to come back to it, and again continue whatever you were doing. So slowly it might start with very smaller amount and smaller stakes, and then to give that, to get the similar high, you will have to start adding up more money and more, more investment for that matter, without realizing whether you have a bandwidth for it, or you don't have the bandwidth for it for that matter. you know So everything else is put aside. All other priorities are put aside. Who's doing what? Other needs are not, they are left unattended for that matter. So it just takes over you completely from that space.
Understood. So if you're saying that if I like playing the guitar or I like sports, I still know that okay, what's going on with my wife, what's my kid doing. I'm not depressed if I can't play cricket on a particular day. But when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I want is trading. When weekend comes, I'm like, oh, there's nothing to fill my vacuum. These sorts of feelings, if I'm feeling. And if this is a thing which I'm thinking when I'm going to sleep and waking up, you're saying that somewhere it should ring my alarm bells.
Absolutely, absolutely. When there is nothing else that's crossing your mind and you're so completely driven by this alone, and we're confusing it as passion.
Understood. So if I have this doubt, right, what should be my first step?
See, the first step is always to resist. Rather than making it urge specific, that, oh, whenever I get up, I do it, I make it time specific. Okay, this is the time I will get back to it, you know? So I try and see if I can resist that or not. If I feel I can't resist, and even if I'm resisting, I'm very distressed and I'm very anxious, I'm having a withdrawal that, okay, I need to get back to it as soon as I want can. Or at the same time, I'm losing interest in my surroundings at the same time. I'm not interested in having a conversation with anybody. My child comes to me and I'm like, okay, no, not now. I'm irritable. My wife is feeling constantly neglected in the process, that she has, we have no time to converse and stuff like that. So that's when we need to understand that, there's something going amiss here. We're losing that balance somewhere.
Or perhaps I have to do something very important. Like I have work, like most of the people are not full time traders, right? So instead of
Yeah.
focusing on work at office, you're involved in trading. I know people who go on vacations in Thailand and are still trading from a ship. This things like this you're saying we should watch out for. And
Absolutely. So I think every time you get up in the morning, you take some time out to figure out the things that you have to, what are important for you, and timeline it somewhere. The trading also should come into that part. That, okay, this is a time when I will not get into it, or I will resist that part. There's always this need to know everything every time. Being so updated about it. And then that takes over, and we don't know when it actually takes over.
so one of our client users, Prakash Singh, has asked a question. See, in your experience, right, what are the most common mental health related aspects that traders particularly tend to overlook?
Mental health.
So his question is, what are the most common mental health related aspects that traders, I'm guessing what he's asking is, what are the most common mental health related problems faced by traders?
Right. Or the over, I think, yeah, that's very important. See, one thing which definitely goes for a toss is the sleep. There is no discipline in a trader's life other than looking into the market or looking into the trading screen for that matter. There's nothing else that matters to that person a lot of times. The self neglect happens. Follow ups are delayed. Medical care is delayed, right? Things are pending for that matter. Okay. People often seen, as I say, addictions are very fairly common when you see in traders. Okay. Like substance addiction. You talk about tobacco, you talk about alcohol. They just look like as if they are the go to options when you feel slightly under the, you know, uh, fire kind of a scenario for that matter. It kind of numbs you down somewhere. And then, of course, it always increases slowly and gradually. Nobody stops at a certain point a lot of times. Okay. Insomnia is fairly common. As I said, the sleep is very, very crucial and critical marker here. So when all these things are getting, disturbed very frequently, there is a spillover into your other aspects of your life as well. With your relationship, your family, which further adds on more stressor. You are even not able to handle that part of it. So all of that when comes together creates a space where it's very isolating a lot of times. And we know that most of the traders don't discuss their thing with families. Most of the time the families are clueless about what's happening. They're not educated enough what it takes to be a trader a lot of times. They're always blaming, and you always have to be, navigating your way through your families. There's always complaining. They always have something that you're doing something which is not required, or you're such a risk taker. There are so many things that comes up. So that's an experience which I see the families are never on the same page a lot of times with the trader, the person who's professionally doing this part of it. So I feel in that case, sharing becomes even harder because you don't want to get exposed and be shamed or made to feel guilty about something that's not gone right for you. So I feel these are the few things which really make it hard to navigate the mental health pathways for a trader in the long run. And seriously, Abid, what I feel that when a person is getting into trading, they don't really think what all it's going to take for us to get into that mode, and what all other thing. It's just not the financial knowledge that I need. It's a lot more things that I need to run through that entire journey for myself. Go through that entire journey. That how can I be clean? How can I be disciplined? And how can I find ways to share about what I'm doing? Yeah.
So I had an interesting question about that one part which you said about sharing, right? So I'm not gonna lie, right? So when I when I met my mother-in-law for the first time, she asked me, "So do you actually trade Bank Nifty and all?" And I said, "Yes." And I could see like a momentary flash of disappointment running. It was a very fleeting glimpse, but I saw it, right? But of course, I don't. So the thing is, one of the things which I realized after starting Sensible is I don't have the bandwidth to trade. So I never trade with money that matters to me. So my wife knows that I'm doing some fun stuff, but I know she knows that I'm not doing it with any serious kind of money. But the problem is, for most people, right, there's like a lot of stigma associated with trading, regardless of whether you're profiting or not, right? Because I mean, classically, all Eastern societies consider this as gambling. I think all Western, I mean, a lot of people in West also consider this gambling. But the problem is, see, first of all, I'm doing something which is slightly taboo in many societies even now, right? On top of that, most of the people are actually making losses. So you can't see. First of all, if I say I'm making losses, your wife is like, "I am loser admi," right? I mean, maybe she won't think like that, but I'll deep down inside, my insecurities are going to make me worry. I'm going to fear like that, right? So then the problem becomes, how do I actually go ahead and have a conversation like this with my family transparently, right? Listen, I'm trading. This is my risk. Like, how do I? And if I, like you pointed out, right? If I'm not sharing it with people around me, who's my support system, then I'm actually headed for like a major disaster. So what would your advice be to traders on how to get a support system around them for sharing what they are going through?
Right. So, as you said, that a lot of education has to come around to trading. So, as you said, the label goes very deep somewhere. They're synonymous with gambling, for that matter. And I think we have to keep differentiating the two. At least that has to begin with some kind of awareness and some kind of talk. Not just when I'm hitting a rock bottom, even when I'm on top of my game. I think it's very important. When we're on top of the game, we don't worry about it, and we never see it coming. And I'm sure as a trader we know that they can be just not ups. There has to be a down. There has to be a curve which goes up and down all the time, for that matter. you know and 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 we have to prepare ourselves for that, because I see a lot of questions are going to be about how to be resilient, how to work around it. But that is something which we have to keep doing it on a very regular basis, irrespective of the highs and the lows, for that matter. And that's what you have to see, that because I was reading, and there's researches which shows that traders are at such high risk for mental health conditions, when you talk about addictions and depression and anxiety, and also medical health conditions. Stress, this extremely high level of stress. And we also know that how stress is leading to so many other lifestyle conditions, and medical conditions, like diabetes and hypertension and cardiac issues. So we are increasing our risk if we are not navigating it properly. So we have to understand that the work at the end of it, of course, it's very high risk. I understand that part of it, but you have to make choices every time. You have to make choice, and a very conscious choice about your health vis-a-vis the work and the money and whatever. So it is all about choices. But choices is not, see, on the face of it, it looks like that we're making a choice between loss and gain. No, we are making a lot, many more choices while we are doing that. And we are not cognizant about it a lot of times. So it's your health, it's your family, It's your well-being, your joy, your happiness. Am I feeling all of those, or am I finding it so hard to get out of it? What is happening to me? I think that reflection is important, you know, and that's why they say, you should have a journal, maybe a way of journaling. How are you feeling about your trading? Spend some time in the morning and write about it. At least some way you're getting it out. Otherwise, there's no way you will be vulnerable and talk to your, colleagues or your family that, yeah, I don't think it's happening, or whatever it is. It may be for that matter, or I'm feeling anxious about it. You know. So I think we will have to have more repertoire and more empowerment to ourselves when we are making these decisions on a daily basis.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, so basically, you're saying that at the very least, even if you're not finding a person on the other end to, you know, share your problems with, at the very least, what we can do is start a journal so that you're at least talking to yourself and reflecting on what exactly you're going through. So,
Absolutely.
okay. So one of the questions which has come from one of our users is, see, they're saying that they have difficulty in sleeping because they have positions open for the next day, and there can be a lot of happening activity happening overnight. US markets could be doing something tomorrow morning, could be wild, etc., etc. So if I am trading actively and I have overnight positions, how exactly do I sleep better? They're saying that when they're about to go to sleep, they keep on thinking about what will happen, and they wake up in the morning, they're like, oh my God, what happened now? So, what would your advice be to these gentlemen?
All right. So I would definitely say, see, make sure the days which are going to be really hard for you, that is one part, that uh, there is some part of it that you will have to, there's something called mindfulness when we practice. That means just trying to stay in the present. When I say staying in the present means not engaging with the other thought that's happening. So I even if I practice every day of 5 minutes, wherein I say that I would want to be in present, and irrespective of whatever crisis is going around me, I am not going to multitask at that point of time. I'm not going to anticipate कि अच्छा वो होगा तो मैं क्या करूँगा और वो होगा तो मैं क्या करूँगा. I don't want to plan anything at that point of time, or I don't want to say that, oh, I'm feeling sad or anxious. So what do I do about that? Or it's so bad I'm feeling a certain way right now. So we will just let those thoughts come, and we won't engage with those thoughts. So this is one thing which I would want. In the long term, we should be doing this part of it. you know but yes, along with, so this is something which would eventually help us to deal with and park ourselves sometimes in the present, and not spend the whole night thinking about what's going to happen in terms of the anticipatory anxiety, and prepare ourselves for all the possibilities, because in that way definitely we will be losing our sleep. There's no way we will not lose our sleep in that case. But if we can constantly talk to ourselves that at some point of time we will have to bring ourselves in the present during the crisis situation, maybe we'll be able to handle it a little more better in the long term. You know, uh, make sure on the other front, if possible, you think your sleeping is so triggered and so difficult, maybe you should see a doctor. He can give you some medicines for some time if you think the sleep has been disturbed. Because see, there cannot be a magic pill immediately to fix that part of it. But yes, there are, on the app, if you go on the Listen app, you will have some, sleep stories, some, meditation exercises, some mindfulness exercises, which you could do so that you can break that momentum of stress. I think that's very important. That one thing you, as traders, that you people have to understand, that to keep breaking that momentum of stress, by bringing yourself to the present, while, so it could be sometime, maybe it could be mindful eating. It could be mindfulness, like, you practice mindfulness while eating, when you say that, okay, I'm eating, but I won't plan anything else while I'm eating, you know, or while I am driving, I won't do anything else while I'm driving. A lot of time when they, yes, I mean, you consciously, you will have to, thoughts aayenge, sare aayenge, you will feel also a lot of things, but you will constantly tell that, okay, I'm not doing this right now. That is the goal for you at that point of time. So if you can start doing that, you will buy some energy during that particular time. Some repair mechanism will happen within your body to fight with the adversities later. Otherwise, we are either in the adverse situation or we are thinking about the adverse situation. So it means we are never out of it, and the body is constantly fighting it out. हो सक हो सकता है उसमें से 2 चीज़ें हों और 10 चीज़ें ना हों. But we have prepared for God knows 100 permutations and combinations. As you said, there are so many markets open and so many things can come up that we are literally enduring too much of damage to our own body.
Correct. So in the sense that, I mean, it's not like I can do anything about US markets right now at 11:30 p.m. in India, right? And maybe in the future we can, because the exchanges are increasing the time. That's another. But as of now, at least if US markets is down 2% in the night, there's nothing I can do. So you're saying that don't engage with the thought of what to do about it tomorrow. Tomorrow, the market khulega, let's see what happens then, right? Tell yourself that I don't want to do this now. I don't have the energy now. I'm going to save it, get some good sleep, and look at it tomorrow when market actually opens.
Absolutely. So you will try to create more sleep hygiene around it, that you don't, you don't end up doing the screen, go keep, keep the gadget away from yourself for some time. Do that away with. If you want to go for a little walk, go for some nice warm shower if you want to do that, you know, and maybe have some, warm milk, something like that, which with some turmeric, with just some self care, increase your self care at that point of time. I think that's very important. Show some compassion to yourself at that point of time rather than beating yourself. Oh my God, what the hell did I do? I should have done this.
Yeah, maybe I've been there. So, another thing which a lot of our users have, I'm sorry, you've done with that answer, right? May I? Yeah, yeah, I have. So some of the questions which is revolving around what to do during bad times, right? So somebody is asking, can you share some specific strategies to maintain your composure while you are in a bad spot? Then somebody else was asking how to build resilience to recover from a drawdown. So basically, all these questions are centered around, okay, I'm in a very bad situation now. I've either made a huge loss or I'm currently in a huge loss. I don't know what will happen next from this loss. So in times like this, what are the things which I should do?
Oh, yes. That's a very nice question. So, if I'll ask you, Abid, that what would you do to comfort a friend who's going through something like this?
Huh. So I have been through that situation a lot, right? So one of the standard things I say is, if somebody is currently in a loss and it's a drawdown and they have not booked the loss, I tell them that, boss, I have been in this situation a lot before, and the moment I hit the stop loss, I lose the money, but I feel an enormous amount of mental relief, right? And I just shut down the PC, walk away, try doing something else. One of the things I do is I don't try to recover the money immediately. I just take a break from trading. So the thing is, deep down inside, there are two possibilities. Either you believe that, boss, I suck as a trader, I'm never going to make the money back, in which case it is very clear, I'll just walk away, take a break, never touch the screen again. The second possibility is, maybe I'm really good at it, right? In which case you need to have a belief in yourself that, eventually I'm going to recover it, but maybe not now because I'm not trading well these days. So, in either case, the answer to that is, don't do anything now. Just stop, take a break from trading. Maybe, and you have to believe that I'm going to feel better once I take a break. And maybe 15 days later, 20 days later, think about what's your next course of action, is what I've told everyone, because I have had this question coming to me from a lot of friends and family before. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. And what would you do if to yourself when you are in a situation like that?
I have done that. See, when I was younger, right, I have done stupid stuff, right? In 2011, when I started trading, uh, I've actually blacked out on a trading floor, right? Because I lost roughly 50L in 10 seconds. I'm not even making this up. So I was trading dollar, rupee, and Reserve Bank intervened in some major way. And I just saw the screen going minus 50L. And the funny part is, in the next 30 seconds or so, I also saw it coming back and becoming zero. But like, I froze. For a second, I had darkness in front. And but then I used to come back to the desk and trade the very next day. Right. That's why I used to respond to that. But I mean, now I don't do that, right? So first of all, I don't even trade with money that matters to me. But suppose if I was trading with money that mattered to me, if I made a serious loss, I'll say, yaar, chodo, I'll just take a break. So the last time it happened to me, in 2017, I had a significant loss. I stopped trading for 2, 3 months altogether. So that's how I responded.
Okay. And what is the internal dialogue? Is it like self bashing?
Yeah, that was not nice actually. There was a lot of self bashing involved. This is like really stupid stuff. I shouldn't have done that, etc., etc. Kind of conversations. There was also a part of it where, you know maybe I should get a couch and lie down. So, I was also having uh, see, the thing is, when I made a loss that I could not afford, the first thing that hit me was that this was pretty irresponsible of me to do that. Right? There is that sentiment, of course, and of course, that money was set aside for other things, right? Like, and you're also, I mean, we live in a system, at least in this country. I mean, I'm pretty sure even in other countries, where as a man you have the role of a primary provider to your family, right? So that makes it even more difficult, right? Because you're gambling away money which probably goes into your children's college education fund in the future. So there's an immense amount of guilt that makes it even more difficult, and guilt tripping never really helps anybody get out of the problem. So these are the emotions which I went through at that time.
All right. So I'm sure that a lot of these emotions people go through, when they are hitting their rock bottoms at that point of time. But when we are talking about being resilient, and we want to bounce back faster, resilient means bouncing back faster, not taking longer to kind of come back, for that matter. I think the first point has to be a self compassion, a note to yourself that right now it's not a time for self bashing. That's firstly, because you would not do to a friend who's gone through something like that. That's why I was asking you, what would you do to your friend? And you tell that, even this, I also do this, or, it's you're not the only one. There are others also who go through something like this. So I think सबसे पहले तो I think it's important for us to understand that I'm not the only one who is experiencing what's happening, and I'm not the only one who's gone wrong right now. I can come back. I can make a comeback. But coming back, I need to make that a little more, I have to sail through better in that process. I can't make that comeback the most miserable part of my life. So either that could be by taking a break from the trading for some time. It could be short time, it could be long time, depending on however you feel up to at that point of time, for that matter. And of course, I think trying to, again, in that particular time, again, the mindfulness works, because otherwise the mind is going in all the different directions for us at that point of time. From the worst and the extreme situation, where people can also think about extreme measures, not finding things, think, or maybe finding things pointless and feeling so much of a guilt and shame that they might want to, do something very, very drastic also a lot of time. I think it's important that you practice mindfulness. You expect that you will get all kind of thoughts at that point of time, and all kind of feelings at that point of time, and that let it run its course also. We cannot stop it. We can't feel any other way at that point of time. So don't force yourself, and don't be dismissive about yourself of not feeling the way, maybe the ideal way of feeling. That, "Oh, I've had a loss, but I should be happy." No, that can't happen. I have a loss and I'll still be all right. No, that won't happen. So I have to kind of accept that all these emotions and feelings will come. There'll be not a magic thing that I can just jump the gun and feel a different way altogether. But yes, sorry.
Kind of give it some time, you mean?
Yes, absolutely. With whatever you're feeling, because emotions do have a role in our lives. There is no, and they are appropriate emotions. You just have to watch that they don't become extreme. They should be in moderation. If they are extreme, please reach out and talk to somebody about it, in those cases, where it's too much of pain, and, you just cannot manage it by yourself, and you feel you're drawn to take extreme, maybe too much of drinking, too much of substance, or maybe anything else that's high, even more riskier at that point of time. So maybe so that is something which you will have to keep a little tab on while you're doing that aspect of it. Uh, so along with this, I think that self compassion has to come up. Maybe practice a little more gratitude about what you already have and what you should be thankful about, rather than what you have lost. Because a lot of focus all of a sudden goes to not to reduce the gravity that what you have lost is small. I'm sure it must be a significant loss to each one of us, for that matter. But again, try and see that you collect yourself by practicing more gratitude at that point of time. And if possible, try and see if you can have a dialogue with somebody whom you can trust, a safe space. It should not become a space where you pick up and you just blabber and you regret what have you done. So, make sure you identify somebody with whom you can talk about it. Yeah. Yes, preferably as much as one can have, so one should definitely go back to that. And again, the self care, make sure you don't give up on your eating. You don't give up on your neglecting yourself, your medicines. If something is due in terms of medical follow up, make sure you do that part of it. So I think if you can kind of sustain during that particular little time, you will be able to fight back faster, bounce back faster for that matter. And if we prolong this, then it gets trickier.
So I found
Yeah.
something very interesting what you did just now, right? Because like you just told me in a very stark contrast how I treated myself during a loss in my internal dialogue versus how I treat others, who are in loss during a dialogue, right? So basically, you're saying that when I talk to a friend, I am compassionate, unjudgmental, and detached. But when I talk to myself, I'm like deeply involved. So, in a way, if we can look at ourselves as a friend and treat that inner person unjudgmentally with compassion and with detachment, you're saying that the internal dialogue can be way easier.
Exactly.
Just look at yourself as a friend.
Yes, and yeah, so don't create a discrepancy about about how you would be with somebody else vis-a-vis how you're going to be with yourself. You know, try and be yourself even nicer during tough situations. That's what I would say.
That's actually super super useful.
Yeah. So
Do you think this has become tougher these days? Like off late, is it is it was it easier like let's say 10 years back compared? Has the world changed in terms of how stressful it is when it comes to trading?
oh yes, it's super stressful right now because what is happening right now is uh, you know uh, we are way too aware about what is happening. People are way too aware about what's happening to me as a person, what's happening to other person for that matter. Everybody's journey is very transparent to a larger extent to each other now because of the way we are connected somewhere, you know. And the market is huge, the losses are huge, the gains are huge. Everything has the whole field has changed on which we are, performing at this point of time, so I think the setbacks are huge in the same way, especially when we talk about when we talk about trading for that matter, you know uh, but at the same time there is also a lot of disconnect that's happened in terms of who we can rely on. Earlier the family structures were different, the networking was different, the people were more close knit, were more there to support one another for that matter, which is right now mostly like each one to its own kind of a scenario. So if something goes wrong, you're all you have to rely on and depend on a lot of times for that matter.
Our
You know.
social structure has come down, you're saying.
Yes, a lot of that has happened.
That's true. Long back, we had a lot of connections, real world physical connections, and
Yes, absolutely. So that definitely makes it a little harder. And of course, our daily hassles. So everything adds up somewhere. It's like everything adds up. We are in Bangalore and Gurgaon and places like this. We have daily hassle. There are other issues that we have to manage. Something or the other. Work wise, family wise. So that does become challenging for us with lesser support right now.
so one of the questions which we got again, which is something which I have had problem with implementing to people who I give advice to, right? See, one of the reasons why people keep trading and lose even more money is that they traded with something which they could not afford to lose and they made a huge loss, right? And now they have to recover it because it's money they need. And in the process of recovering, they even dig themselves a bigger, deeper hole, right? And even the problem is, let's say there's somebody who has a consistent track record of 1 year of losses, right? So there's data telling that, boss, you're making loss every week or every expiry or every month. Now, at some point, how do I put it? See, if I wrote JE thrice and I did not clear JE thrice, I'll say, ki boss, maybe shayad mere se nahi hoga. We'll find another field, right? Or if I tried to pick up the guitar and I realize that I'm nowhere near the top of my class, I'll be like, okay, perhaps not for me. Right? Video gaming, anything, I immediately get the feedback, I stop it. It's not like I keep persisting. But perhaps it's also because of the compulsive behavior. In trading, I don't see this happening, right? In fact, people who are extremely bad at trading and people who are extremely good at trading keep trading. The middle ones are easier to deal with. But people who lost money keep coming back to this and try to recover money and they make, and even if they, so I have a standard advice which I generally give to people when they ask, right? I say, "Ki boss, they go just forget that you lost. I mean, just let it go, right? And it's not like you have to take that money back, do something else and make money somewhere else, right? I've tried several things, right? I even told people ki, okay, you lost like 20L in trading, that's fine, now focus on your career and make maybe 80L from somewhere else, right? But it's very difficult to get people away from this and to let them make peace with their losses, right? If we could do this, I'm sure this problem would reduce drastically. What would be your thoughts on how to allow people to make this peace?
Yeah, so I think the acceptance that okay, that okay, maybe I should do something else, or this should end now, or maybe this is a time that I can take a break. Sometimes when we are not able to calibrate that, which definitely leads up into more mess a lot of time. That's you tell me right now, and that's what also I've seen, and I've seen clients in my in my therapy room for that matter. So so what happens is the people who are trading, they have a tendency, a bias. They feel that the positive outcomes are, they definitely let's say expected much more than what they are actually, they look like for that matter. They don't see that the negatives are, the possibility of negative is happening that much as the possibility of positives are happening to them for that matter. So there is a little mismatch, and expectation wise it does make a difference, that you feel that this can happen to you more, the probability is more to gain than to lose. you know and when that's in a very heightened sense, because there's a lot of vicarious reinforcement, you're seeing other people making money, and you get so driven by that that you end up taking those chances again and again, where you are impulsive again. There is an impulsive component which we talk about it. More desperation and more impulsivity. Both the things, when they add up, they become a very lethal combination for us, for that matter. So I think somewhere people need to understand that when they are desperate, maybe their calibrations might not be the accurate one, the most accurate ones. And that's where we talk about the mental health here. That mental health is important because it helps you take the better decisions in life. And if you're in that stress mode, and if you're in that anxious mode or depressed mode, you might just, in depressed mode, you might just give up all your trading. You might just do stuff away, even when you don't have to. And similarly in anxiety for that matter, or in a stress mode, whatever. So I think it is important for every trader to figure out that, to keep a check that there are, in what head state or mental space I am right now. You know, yeah, at least little checks. You should have some checks on you. It should not again be what you see on the screen. It should also be a check about how I'm feeling about it at this point of time. So as you said, I really feel that taking those small breaks, short breaks from trading, especially when you're in that particular headspace, would be a great tool if somebody uses that. You know, and you can come back and take better decisions for yourself. But if not, then obviously you that impulsivity will take the better of you in that process. There will be more losses. You know.
Okay. So I'll just ask a penultimate question from our viewers. This is also something which I share, and probably Zerodha is going to cut my airtime completely after this. but but here goes. How do I quit trading for good? If I really want to quit trading for good, right? I have made the mental. I've done analysis. I have realized that okay, I really, really, really am bad at it. My friends tell me I'm bad at it. Others realize I'm bad at it. I also realize that let's say I have an opportunity cost of this, I might just have much better outcomes in my career, something, something. For whatever reason, I have understood that boss, this is not for me. Now, how do I quit it and stay off the wagon? On the wagon. Which one is it? Is it off the wagon or on the
Off. Off. I won't be able to quit if I'm on the wagon. I'll be on the wagon. So, okay. So, see, if this is so hard at that point of time, then we will have to consider the possibility of addiction here. I'm trying so hard. Everything is crystal clear that why I should not be doing what I'm doing. And yet I'm doing. Yet I'm drawn to it every time. And that should be a flag that, okay, maybe I should see an expert for at that particular point of time. That is one. That despite of resisting, despite of knowing, despite of the rational person we are not able to leave that. A lot of times when we say about alcohol addiction, the person wants to quit. No, there's ruining everything in the body. Family, everything is gone for a toss, jobless, yet not. Needs help. Similarly, if that's the case here, when we have so much of clarity about everything, and yet we are not able to, then possibly there's a point that we need help, you know. Uh, and I think another part which definitely would help us is involving people in your decision. That, okay, listen, I really want you to help me with this. I am not able to stop it. I really want to stop. So ask your, yes, family, friends, whoever can, have access to you, can have an access to you. So that they can, and then they can figure out that how they can do that. They can be checks and balances that we can create. That, okay, the wife can check on you frequently, or somebody whom you're comfortable can check on you about certain things, about how you're feeling. Those little time slots, those time when you especially have the urge to go back and get into trading, for that matter. There was always certain time of the day when we feel that I will be, more prone to go and check and do that part of it. So they can be one can do a complete behavioral analysis, actually, if that the word I can use, because we use it in therapy. That, what are your risk factors? What are your predispositions? What are the maintaining factors which are making you go back to that situation where you don't want to go back? And then once we identify this, then we start working around that part of it somewhere. you know but yes, definitely, on the serious note, I would definitely say that if that be the case, we finding it so hard, it should be good to seek therapy in that case to begin with. And if there is something more to it, then the therapist would further guide you about how to go about it, for that matter. So when I look in, so one thing which I really want to talk, because it's a great platform. When we talk about addiction somewhere, Abed, and we talk about on a serious note, because uh, so a lot of times when there is gambling or any other kind of addiction, we also look at many other comorbidities. You know, in that particular case, so comorbidities could be another mood disorder. It could be maybe depression. It could be bipolar. It could be untreated ADHD. And when these scenarios are there, the risk for the addictions increase for us, for that matter. And especially, when these conditions are, they get combined with somebody who's doing trading, it becomes maybe more high risk zone for us in that space, because we are dealing with a lot. The losses are immense, the impact is immense. you know yeah, you talk about exactly right. So I think that it's and all the more reason the mental health becomes even more important here. Because it could be marker of so many other things if it's not checked. And we might not know, and we might just feel that, oh, it's a failure on my part, but vis-a-vis, I might be dealing with a condition which needs a proper intervention at some point of time. you know so I guess we should be fairly open to the idea that we can reach out and meet a therapist or a counselor, because not all the time trading should be only dependent on your, as you said, there's the financial markers and the technicalities. There's a lot that goes along with it, which has to be a fulfilling criteria for one to be a trader. I think those criteria should not be overlooked. What is your level of impulsivity? You know, are there any ADHD aspects? Any other sign and symptom we need to look into? Other than trading, how is your impulsivity component in other aspects of your life? Is it impacting your decision making elsewhere? Yeah. So of course the whole evaluation would definitely get us, will get us into a better space to navigate our way through.
Okay. Okay. And so the last part from us is, so what are the best practices, right? Best mental health practices that you would advise our audience who are traders, who wish to continue trading, to do?
I would say that everyone who wants to enter, I'm sure it's a beautiful world out there. It's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of rush. Okay. But I guess you have to make sure you stay clean. When I say clean, that your substance should not be something which which should be the go-to option when you're feeling little low or stressed out. That's one part of it. You should make, have good self-care regime, which should talk about your physical health care, which should talk about your sleep, which should talk about your macro and micronutrients, both, you know, uh, appetite, a balanced food, when, what time you should have what kind of food is equally important, depending on when do you need to be more energetic, when you don't, when you can relax and things like that. It can't be that you have, there's a time when you have to be very energetic, but you have eaten something which pulls you down in terms of, making you more lethargic at that particular point of time. So I think your self care definitely should be a part of it. Your self compassion should be an extremely practiced tool consistently for yourself, for all your little setbacks that you go through, especially around that time for that matter. Make sure that you don't have a barrier of, not reaching out to a therapist if you need to talk to somebody, because a lot of times, as we discuss, we don't talk that openly about our vulnerabilities and how we are feeling about it. It's so much locked down. We're more irritable, we're more angry, we're more snappy, we will lose our sleep, but उसके आगे नहीं हो पाएगा कुछ. We won't be able to tell something, यार ये चल रहा है या ऐसा फील कर रहा हूँ मैं इस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे. So we need that space to talk, definitely. So allow that, because it has to come out of your system. Otherwise, it will stress your body, and the body will show its symptoms in so many other ways. In medical and in psychological ways for that matter. So make sure we are able to kind of keep those checks on ourselves as we get into this kind of a field of work that we're looking into. So I think that should really help.
Okay, anything else which you would like to add as a word of advice for all of us out here?
I would only want to say that always remember that when you're making certain choices, you have to be aware about it. Is about choices. The entire trading is about choices. But you as a person have to figure out where other aspects of your life fit in. What is more important? I think that review is very important from time to time. Sometimes you might say that, oh, it's enough. I want to exit this part, or I want to take a break from this part, or I want to continue with this part. But make sure you do that periodically. It should not be something that you're compelled to do. It should be something that you want to do. So I think just because I've been doing it for so long, so I should be doing it for the rest of the time. I don't know. I mean, one has to make that choice.
On trading itself.
Sorry?
At some point, you have to hit a stop loss on your habit of trading itself, maybe.
Yes, I think that review is important. Reviewing with your own self is important. And I think journaling would definitely help us in that process. Uh, so I guess there is a section of journaling in our Listen app also, where you can go and start writing, which is completely confidential. Nobody has an access to that. So you can kind of do that. Or maintain your own voice recordings if you want to do, audio diaries you want to make. So make a way to reflect on how you've been feeling all along. Because कई बार क्या होता है, we lose in touch with what we were feeling back then. It becomes more recent memory, you know. But I think if we can calibrate and see how all along I feel about what I'm doing and how I'm doing, I think that would really help us to, have that good feedback system for ourselves, and to make it more doable if it has to be done in the long run. Otherwise, there's so much of exhaustion that happens. There's so much of energy that it takes to come out of it. I'm sure it's not easy a lot of times. What I'm saying is try and make it a little more easy, and with little breaks that we can take to review and rejuvenate. But one thing which I would definitely want, because it's a very, very high stress work, Abid, we can't just wait for vacations to de-stress ourselves. You have to find a mechanism every day to repair what you endure, what you go through. If you are doing that, you will be able to play this for long. If not, then it'll exhaust you much, much earlier than that.
Yeah, my mom says I have gray hair because my first job was trading. I can completely relate.
Mom will All right. So I think it's important to hear people, what people around you also say sometimes. Well, not all the time, but sometimes, yes, the feedback loop gets completed. That sometimes we just brush them aside and we like, we don't want to listen certain things sometimes. They're complaining or whining or whatever it might be happening. But I think when we are reviewing, let's just try to put things a little more perspective and be more holistic as a person, you know, while we are doing these things. So I guess that's all from my side as a what I would like to say to all the traders out there.
Okay, okay. So I'll put it this way, right? See, I do conversations with experts once in a while. There are two kinds of conversations, right? One is where I think, "Ki, okay, this is a nice point, Pilaya, very nice, and all that." The other is, oh my God, I really need to think about my life right now. Right? So this comes in the second category for me, and I'm sure, and I'm sure. And I'm sure a lot of traders who are watching this, I hope they have similar emotions and they understand that these are things they can relate to, and there are actionables uh, in a lot of things which we talked about today. So this was very, how do I put, awareness creating. Dr. Preeti, thank you very much for that. This was really enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you, Abid, and thank you for having me on this platform. I'm glad we could have this conversation, I guess, and we should have it more often. I think something like this should keep going on, actually.
Amen to that.
Right. Thank you so much.